Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is part 2 to the Housing with Services team meeting. Thank you for coming on a Friday. Due to the technical difficulties on Monday, we did not get through the agenda. So I have an abbreviated agenda for today, but want to focus on a couple of things. So as always, we will start with a prayer. Please center yourself. And if you care to join me. Faithful Father, we thank you for hearing our prayers, feeding us with your word, and encouraging us as we have gathered together. Take our lives and use us to love and serve you and all people in the power of your Spirit and in the name of your Son. We are created by your power, redeemed by your love, and strengthened by your Spirit. We give ourselves into your service. May we love you and love others with all of our hearts. Through Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Okay.
Senator Jennifer.
Is that still?
For not following through on this.
Robin, can you mute your line, please?
Thank you. Okay. So what we want to talk about today and really kind of focus on, and I'm going to start us out and then I'm going to turn it over to Linda, who's actually going to pull up Matrix and kind of walk us through some of the process of this, is what I'm hearing when I go out into the communities, and I know Linda, as she trains some of the DONs on Matrix, there's a lot of confusion on the whole process for the move-in. What comes first? What comes second? Where does the person-centered wellness plan come into play? Where do the pre-admission assessments that are required in Minnesota and Missouri come into play? You know, just how does that all kind of fit together? So that's really what we wanted to talk about today. And within that, some of the updated tools individualized by state that you guys can use. So let me hold on my PowerPoint here for a second. And I'm going to pull up eSource. So in eSource, okay, can you all see eSource right now? So in the eSource, as we've talked about before, under the support center, you will see, if I just start over here. If I go to the little library and I click on admissions, in eSource, you will see each of the individual states. And if I click on a state, such as North Dakota, you will see that the communities are listed. If it's got this little asterisk, it means that the paperwork is done. And then on the top, each state will have admission tools. And so if you click in that, you're going to find a move-in checklist. It's in a Word document, and that's very purposeful because we encourage you to change this to what works best for you. So if you are a Duluth or a Marion, where you have a coordinator that may be managing admissions, who is different than the salesperson, then this is going to need to be moved around. If you're more of a traditional model where the salesperson does most everything until the person moves in, then this one would probably fit you. And it's also assumed in this one that the housing administrator is the one that does the intake paperwork, because the ideal goal is that the salesperson kind of owns the relationship until they decide to move in. And then once they move in, buttons everything up, hands it off to the housing team, who's going to own the relationship moving forward. Because otherwise, whenever there's an issue or concern, they're going to keep going back to sales. We really want to pass off that relationship, make that introduction to the administrative and clinical team in housing, and pass that off. But again, I know every one of you are a little bit different depending on your size and your resources. So feel free to kind of move this around a little bit. It's also a little different by state, because some of you have pre-assessments and some of you don't. As we just said, Minnesota and Missouri have a pre-assessment where the nurse needs to look at the person before they even say yes, which is very different than North Dakota or Wisconsin, who it is always expected that when you bring somebody into assisted living, the nurse is consulted, but there's not a required form in those states that has to be completed. So that's the only difference between the two. So in this one in North Dakota, this document starts when the person decides to move in. So there's a lot of stuff that sales does when you talk about tour package, when somebody's inquiring and other things like that. That's not included in here. This is the, yes, they're moving in. Now the whole team needs to work together to make sure that this is a smooth transition. So in North Dakota, what is the level of care? What is the resident or resident's name? And then is the tour packet given? So in this, we're talking about the tour packet being, hey, great, you want to move in? There's some documents that need to be completed that, and the tour packet is an e-source, and or if you're not in Minnesota, will be an e-source. That just really includes the basic information. Here's the application for the financial application for admission. Here is the release of information so that our nurse can take a look to see if you're there. And then I recommend you can either hand it out of the paperwork when they move in, or you can hand it out now. I recommend handing them the person-centered wellness plan so that they have those 3 documents and the vital statistics. So basically, these are the documents that you will need to complete to see if we approve you to move in. And if you do, these are the documents that when you come for the paperwork, we're going to want you to think ahead of time, you know, get your insurance cards together, et cetera. Also included in the insurance packet is a tour packet is kind of things that the nurse will need that you should try to pull together. And again, we can look at that down the road, but I want to make sure we've got enough chance for Linda here. So then once that is received, that information back, here's my financial application, here's my releases of information. Then we need to make sure that nursing approves the person, that the financial is approved, and we want to schedule a move-in date. Prior to that move-in date, and again, Linda will talk about the timing, but ideally around 5 days, you're going to want to have them come in and do the paperwork. Paperwork meaning the administrative and the nursing paperwork together, because the nurse needs to do it ahead of time in order to arrange for the medications, any special equipment, get the service plan set up in Matrix, get everything set. So sales wants a when's the move-in date, and let's arrange for your paperwork date. And we want to make sure that they are also telling them that this could take a while. Offer them the entire admission package so that they can show it to a lawyer, they can read it ahead of time. If they have no questions, it's pretty quick. If they have a lot of questions, it can take hours. So we want to make sure that we're giving them a heads up on that. And then schedule the service plan setup date, which ideally is the same day. And then homework given, which is the vital statistics, the person-centered wellness plan, the paperwork that they would need to bring back, and offer, as I said, to bring in the full admission. And then we're going to go to nursing. So what is nursing going to do in this process? Which again, I'm going to turn it over to Linda in a second. And how is nursing going to integrate the person-centered care? All this stuff is going on simultaneously. So you can use a Q drive and have everybody kind of fill in their spots and refer to the Q drive when you do your daily stand-up. The housing leader can keep this in a folder and say, how are we progressing on this admission? Where are we at today? Lots of different ways that you can use this. But each one of these pieces really needs to happen to assure that we've got a smooth intake. And then again, were the funds approved and are all the business processes covered? Is that room ready? Is someone checking that room? Did we hook up everything we needed to? Did we hook up the phone? And then we also have on here maintenance approval. So there are times that there are special requests. Can I put in a disposal? Can I put in a washer and dryer? Can I switch it out for the refrigerator that I like? And so if the answer is no, what is the reason? So that came up when I was working down at Madonna, and Paul did not, he didn't mind. I forget, I think it was a washer and dryer, but we had no way to connect the water. So that was the problem with that. And so, and other ones, he said, fine. So what is the special request and what is maintenance doing about that? And then the housing administrator, did we sign the lease? Did we do the admission check-in? Do we have a move-in date? Do we have a service start date? A lot of times in assisted living, the family moves everything in the day one, and then the person comes to day two. So they could be 2 different dates. Did we make sure that the apartment was set? Did we take the person up there to show them the apartment to make sure that it was all set? And then in North Dakota, there is a requirement that after a person moves in, you then have a second meeting with them and again review their rights verbally in addition to giving them their rights in the admission. So that's what this is for North Dakota. So there's going to be little differences in each state. Wellness coordinator, this is all about the person-centered wellness plan and incorporating it into the activities. We're going to come back to that. And then spiritual coordinator in the same process. How do they know who this person is? How do they integrate into the spiritual services? So I went through this pretty quickly. Again, we can come back to it, but it's really about making sure that it's not just sales and then the person moves in and we do the paperwork in the last minute. All of this should be thought ahead of time, should be looked at on a daily basis, and the process kind of work through the entire team to assure that our admissions are as smooth as possible. So any questions there? Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move it over to Linda, because the important piece of this, as we talked about person-centered care and really improving our satisfaction. And on Monday's call, we looked at our satisfaction scores, and almost universally, the #1 opportunity is that person-centered care. The first question of, do my choices and preferences honored? So that's what we really want to focus on. And we really want to make sure that the admission process is smooth, includes that person-centered interview, and includes integrating that into the system. So Linda, I will stop sharing and turn it over to you, and then we'll come back after you show us Matrix.
Great. Happy Friday, everyone. Real quick, just a little Friday cuteness. I'm sorry, Mary, I have to pull her up. My gosh, look at how cute this girl is.
She's
I just can't
adorable.
even stand it. I'm never gonna have a granddaughter, so I'm gonna have to live through some other people. Anyway, so on to Matrix. So what Penny was talking about, and I hope you guys can all see my screen. Penny was talking about the wellness questionnaire, and I think that's like the #1 not problem, but area that we can improve on. So when people are moving in and we're doing that checklist, in your business people, your housing manager are getting those people put in under your pre-admission census. And we are looking at doing another census for Matrix for people moving in, but until that's settled, the pre-admission census does bring them into your senior living. And so if they're not a current resident, we can have the opportunity to look at our status for our residents and do that move-in status so that we can find people on the list moving in and we can start that evaluation. So when we start a new evaluation on a client, and I'll go down to somebody who hasn't had one for a while. If we're going to start a new evaluation on Margaret, who is on the move-in status, and we'll just use, we'll start with Missouri, or we'll start with Minnesota. When their initial evaluation is starting, you will fill everything out as best you can as these people are moving in. This will be your initial evaluation. You'll leave it open and in pending status until that person actually moves in. On the day of move-in, then your pre-admission that was done on paper, all that information is now integrated, either the face sheet in Matrix Elite under Health Management tab for your immunizations, all your diagnoses I've put in, and then your cares are started. So on the day of admission, you're basically going to the room, seeing them, maybe you're grabbing their set of vitals, asking some last minute questions. You can talk about, I see that we have you set up for help with dressing and grooming twice a day.
So Linda, can you back up a little bit for us administrative folks who have never done this? So if I'm a nurse and I am going out to visit the person to decide whether I want to accept them or not. So whether it's an official assessment or a piece of paper or just what I jot down. So is that information in here at that point in time that I can just carry it forward, or at what point in time do I put that information in here?
So you take your pre-admission assessment with you when you go visit them for the first time, because that's required. So that paper assessment, you take it with you. You make your notes on there of everything they need for CARES. If you want to do their points, you can go into eSource and do their points through there to calculate a preliminary points if that's important to them, or the marketing tool that's in eSource. Which I can again show you, just 1 minute, I'll pull that up. But you have to do the piece of paper and you have to have all your information. This is the marketing tool, it's in eSource under the AL toolkit. We can possibly link it over to the admission one too, Penny. But either way, however you're deciding what you're taking,
So
this
that's manual. And then once
Right.
everybody signs off, finance signs off, the nurse
right.
signs off, then you go
Once
into
you
Matrix.
decide that
Yep.
this resident is coming, you will put them into Matrix Elite under a pre-admission hold. That will make them available in your senior living and you can start their evaluation here. So once you're doing your evaluation and this is open and ready and started, you're going to go through all those questions of the visit because your pre-admission, you already asked a lot of these questions. So you will start doing all these questions in here. And then as you get down into the one question about wellness, you're going to see that that one is pre-clicked for you. So that one is not a choice. Everyone in Minnesota is going to have that automatically come up. I got to find it. I lost it. Hang on.
You just passed it. And in Missouri, it is required in Missouri as well. So we are going to connect it. We're going to do some more training for you, and then we're going to connect it in Missouri as well. You just passed it.
Missouri, yes, we have to look at your evaluation also. But anyway, so this is already pre-clicked for you. It is not a regulation that this whole form has to be filled out on the initial assessment. And I keep getting a lot of questions about that. It's linked because we want you as a team for somebody to have that responsibility that someone is making sure we're getting this paperwork back and then we're incorporating it into the service plan. So for the initial, when this is, when you're clicking on this, the only thing you have to fill out is put their name in here. That is all you have to do for today. And then you go ahead and save it and close it out. And of course, wait for yours to refresh and you'll see now that it's green. We legally have up to 14 days to have all this filled out. You can fill it out right now, or the wellness people could fill it out while it's open if you tell them that this questionnaire is open. But they can fill it out. Again, you would fill out all your questions, your vulnerable adults, you'll save it. You'll come back to your evaluation and this can stay open now. Margaret will just stay in progress until the day she moves in and then you can go ahead and click it. You can then finalize it. And I'm just gonna quick finalize hers. Oh, sorry.
So again, I just want to make sure that everybody's understanding. So the you you're referring to is the director of nursing. So the director of nursing or the RN who's doing the intake evaluation doesn't have to fill it out. They can just put the name in there and can close out their assessment and leave it at that. And then when they come back and do their 14 days, that gives whoever is assigned time to go into the clinical setting and complete that form, correct? Is that right?
Correct. So now you're going to see this is final. So now if I am a wellness person or housing person or whoever is going to do that evaluation or that assessment under the forms, I'm going to go to clinical forms and I'm going to find Margaret. I'm going to go to new. I'm going to select my resident. and I am going to add the new form of my wellness questionnaire. Now, anyone can do these. Everyone has access to this person-centered questionnaire. It's just in Minnesota, we have it linked, but anyone can go in here and everyone should have one. It's pretty universal. And they can fill this out. And as they fill all these things out, they can put in lots of nice details. And you'll see that I only have 90 characters in this box, but I have 4,000 characters in the box below. So if I want to expand, etc. And as I fill this out, I'm going to save it. I'm going to go ahead and finalize it when I'm all done. I could leave it open and keep working on it, whoever is doing it. And then the next time I come into my evaluation for Margaret, and now it's her 14-day, we're hoping that's done, because when I start a new evaluation and I copy that over, anything that's been put in there should show up. And I'm using the word lightly should because it is matrix, and sometimes we have some little foo-foos with matrix. But now if I go to my person-centered wellness, it carried over. I should have everything that I put in. I can either add to it, but as my 14-day assessment, I want to read through this as the nurse now and make sure that I'm looking at anything. Oh, I see she has religious. She wants to go to mass on Sundays. My conversation on my 2-week follow-up is going to be, do you need an escort to get to mass, or are you able to get to mass? Because we can set that up for you. Or I notice that I have to be, something important to me is having coffee every morning. Do you want a service for me to send the aide in to make you a pot of coffee? So then as we're reading all these and we find out things we like and don't like, I can either put it here for the staff to know. So I could do a summary here for my staff to know anything important from that likes and dislikes. And then I can incorporate anything here. I know that it's very important for her to have escorts to get to meals. So I'm going to go down to my escorts and make sure that we are taking her to mass. And so you're incorporating that wherever it needs to go.
Linda, as the nurse, does he or she need to read through each question, or is there a summary like there is on the manual form?
I don't know of a summary on the manual form.
Okay.
Is there one?
Yeah, I can show that afterwards. But so the nurse would look through that, which is appropriate because you want to know your residents. She would look through the entire document.
So if there's a summary, let's look at the form. They could copy and paste it over into the front. So is the summary at the end, Penny? Because I made this exactly like the one.
Yeah, it'd be at the end. I think scroll up a little bit. Yeah, how can you help me? So food, so this is my preferences. So these are the categories of once whoever's doing the form, ask them all about their preferences and choices, then you would kind of work based on that information to summarize the pieces that we need to help them with. So if their answer when you talk about food is, I love all food, I'm Italian, I love pasta, I love this, I love that, that's fine. If the answer is, I don't want to eat before 11 a.m., but I want my breakfast at 11, even if I'm going to eat lunch at 12, then that's something that we need to make sure that culinary knows. So that would be put in here under food. How can you help me? Make sure that we don't wake her up before 11, and make sure that culinary has breakfast safe for her. So then the nurse would need to integrate the don't get her up until 11 into the service plan. So this is kind of where it's summarized so that people can see, what do I need to do about it?
So this is like if I have someone who doesn't want to get up till 11, then under my cares, I would put my, I would go to my ADL section and I would say, I would schedule my ADLs for 11 o'clock or later. So it's incorporating it where it best belongs. If it's a scheduling item, then of course we would come in here and I would now put in here that she doesn't want to get up until 11 o'clock. So that they know, because we're making this personalized. But again, if it's just a very vague, nothing that needs to be scheduled, but you want them to know, put it in this box. Put in that her favorite color is purple. So if we're, or she likes the Vikings, I don't know why, but we are winning. So anything that you want the staff to know, we can put in this box, because remember all these notes in CareAssist, they can see these under their service plan when they read them, because they're all supposed to read the service plans and get to know the residents. So what's nice to have it linked is that when I'm doing these forms and I'm doing my 14-day, and they did a better job getting to know her, I can come in here and get to know her just as well, because I probably didn't have that much time to get to know her. So then I can read this, and then every year we should be looking at this and updating it with things, you know, things change, people change. And so that's something that we just want to get on so that we know that we are always updating. And every time you save, you just, want to make sure that when we're doing a new form that we always copy one over. So for people who are coming in for the first time and starting a new wellness questionnaire on someone, that we're always first searching to see if there's an existing one, so we don't create and lose any information that we have. And then you can always come in and you can go ahead and start your form and just add and add and add. You never have to start from the beginning. It's always created and able to copy over.
So if I've got the whole form complete and the person likes to sleep until 11, and then I discover that the reason they like to sleep until 11 is they actually had an underlying condition that we found out about, we got them on some great medicine, and now they're up and running at 8 a.m. So then I would just carry over the form and change that to say, nope, she wants to get up at 8 a.m. now, and that's all I would need to do, correct?
We would have to change their ADL schedule if she wanted to get up earlier. Yep.
Yep, but then on that
Not
90-day
necessarily
review
the
or whenever I do
wellness,
the
but-
review,
yeah.
I could just carry everything over and change that one thing as part of my review.
Yep. You are correct. It's meant to be a working tool that we can utilize throughout our evaluation process. It's not meant to be so separated. It's not meant to just go on paper and be uploaded into Matrix and nobody ever sees it again. It's meant to be, working together, ongoing, updating all the time. Yes.
So we want to see this, again, in Minnesota and Missouri, it will be connected to the evaluation. In the other states, it is not linked as a mandatory, though we can do that for you if you prefer. Because as you know, in healthcare in general, person-centered care is priority. And as we know from a customer service perspective, our residents are saying, we're not listening to their personal preferences and cares. So we're more than happy to connect that so that it needs to be done. So that's up to you guys. But again, I think making sure that there are still people that say, well, we're doing it, but we're doing it on paper. So the couple of things that need to happen in this and where this would be used is everything Linda just said. So from a clinical perspective, you should know who your resident is, and you should make sure that their personal needs and preferences are built into the service plan, as we just talked about. If you're the wellness person who typically owns this document, then you're going to go a step farther. You're going to look at these personal preferences, and then you should be doing two things. One of them, not necessarily making a calendar for each person, but what is the wellness plan for that person? So if they love to play piano, can they yeah, you can just say we have a piano down in the lobby, but is there other things to do? Is, hey, do you want to entertain all of us at 5 o'clock during happy hour? Or, what are we doing to enhance that person's life and give some meaning to their life? And then build all these together to drive your wellness, your activity calendar. So if people are all saying, I love Bible study, or I love to play bridge, or I love to whatever, well, then you've got 8 people who play bridge. I would certainly hope we set up a bridge group, right? And so it's meant to kind of do that. So say, here's what's already available to you. Here's what I can hook you up with. Here's the trends I'm seeing as I'm introducing these people. And here's how I'm going to manage my activities calendar. Because where I see the good to great in the wellness and activities is a lot of our activities are built around the SNF world, where those folks are a little bit more debilitated, and activities you typically have to be run by us and are more sedentary. Where in assisted living and independent living, a lot of it can be driven by the residents. There should be a lot more external things, not just a drive to the local thing, but going to the movie theater, like going to plays, going wherever, right? So a lot more robust. And I know we're all tight on staff. So these people are also very capable of running some of these things. So just some thoughts on that. So it should really be driving that. Spiritual care, the same thing. How you then make sure that the world knows them are in 2 different formats. So when you're training new resident assistants or anybody who's providing care, part of the expectations, and depending on the state, part of the law says that we must orientate each caregiver to the residents that they serve. So that's more than just a service plan saying go in and take care of this person. Is understanding who that person is. So having this on Matrix and then teaching the aides as you come on board, we're not only going to introduce you because you're going to shadow and you're going to do this, but here's their story. Here's what you can know. Here's how you start up a conversation by understanding what this person is. So that's how you kind of fulfill that introduction and that orientation. And then lastly, what I would recommend as a best practice is whoever is responsible for doing this, when you come to daily stand-up and there's a new resident and you've done this form, tell people about it. Look at that bottom line and say, here's the summary of the things that this person told me about. They're a Viking fan, they love flowers, whatever, and guys, be aware that they don't like to be disturbed before 11. So make sure housekeeping knows that. Make sure culinary knows that. Make sure everybody knows that. So, give a picture of that person and do that summary so that everybody knows what this person's preferences are. Make sense? Questions? Okay.
What do you want me to do with?
So I'm going to go back. Linda, I'm just trying to think here if there's anything else that you should be showing from this. Is this what you just showed what the aides see, or does it look different from what they see? If you're on mute, I think you're on mute if you're talking.
I said, no, that is not what the aides would see. That is what the nurses would see. The aides would see anything that you put into their service plan through this Care Assist. So when they're in Care Assist and they view this service plan, they will see any question that you pick. So when you pick that wellness questionnaire, it will now start coming up here. And so if you do a summary, they're going to have access. And this is what they're supposed to read on every person, so that they have all their information, they know the person, and then they know their vulnerabilities. But it's also important, not just vulnerabilities, but the wellness questionnaire, so they really get to know these people. So this is where they find the service plan. If it's a task they have to sign off, they would see it on the to-do list. But the summaries are all seen just through the service plan. So something like, I'm gonna give you an example of some kind of a safety feature, like a floor mat would need to be signed off on to guarantee that the staff is doing that. But something here, life enrichment, anything that I had put in that note is gonna be seen in this square here. So I can read on that person and know that they like the color red, or that they need large print, or whatever it is. It's just right here for me to read as I'm reviewing my service plan.
So say again, how do I get, I mean, because that assessment is a big document. So if I'm the nurse, how do I just cut and paste what I think is relevant onto here, or I click a box, or how do I get it to show up here?
So again, when you're in the evaluation, which I think most of the nurses here do them a lot, so I think they know how it gets there. But anything in the notes from cognition down shows up in, so anything that you put in the notes shows up on the service plan. So, you need to know what you want the staff to know about them. That's in writing. You can put it anywhere in the whole service plan where it makes sense, and then things that you don't really need under dressing or grooming or more activity related, the notes can just reflect that here. And if it has to do with transporting or something, it would fit into more mobility. So you just have to know where to put the things so that they show up in the appropriate places.
Okay.
And again, you can toggle on your left side, wherever you
So
want.
there was
them
a
to go.
question on what you were showing in Kerecis, what actually shows up in the handheld. And so what you just showed into Kerecis is what they can see, correct? Not this, but the other one you were just at.
So there's two types of questions. There are questions that schedule, that have to be documented, that the aides have to sign off on. There are questions such as this question, which are just for them to review in their service plan. So questions that have to be signed off on will show up on their to-do list. Everybody has a service plan, no matter where they are in Kerecis, that they're responsible to click to view the service plan on each resident. And they have access to see anything that the nurse wrote in any category.
And my handheld looks just like the screen that we're looking at right now.
It's all the same application. Yep. It's
Okay.
laid out a little bit different, but it's generally the same no matter what device you're using.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions on Kerecis or how the evaluation runs over to Kerecis?
This is Stephanie. I have a question. So those of us that are getting our certification to do assessments, are we then able to go in and do what you're showing us right now, or does it have to be a nurse?
And I think you're from Missouri?
Yes.
Okay. So Missouri has a pre-admission assessment under the forms. And let me go into, and it's based on your community, what your community is going to do. But this would be more the nursing function, setting up the services. I'm trying to think of who I have for Missouri here. So Missouri has a pre-assessment form in here that you could do, who's ever certified to do the pre-admission.
Okay.
And
So
then
I
the
think-
nurse would come in and do the evaluation after that.
So I think to answer it in a little bit different way, and again, Linda can correct me. It looks like your form is in here for Missouri, which is great. It just makes it simpler. But based on the state, whoever can do the forms. So in Missouri, Stephanie, you are a social worker, so you meet the criteria of doing the pre-admission. You could do it in Matrix, you have access to do that. In Missouri, the intake still has to be done by a nurse. So it would be in there, the nurse would review it, use that information so she doesn't have to start over and ask all these questions over again. She would review the pre-assessment that you completed, and then she would use that to set up a service plan.
Okay,
And then in Minnesota, where both have to be done by an RN, it doesn't have to be the same RN, it can be a different RN. Again, they would use that pre-assessment and not have to do it all over again, can go ahead and start building the assessment, building the information, and then finalize that when they've got the resident in front of them. And then in all states, again, you can, you get the person in, you've gotten to know them, you can do some of this ahead of time if you need to, but once they're in the building, then you finalize the person-centered wellness plan, you adjust the clinical care as necessary based on the person-centered wellness plan, and you communicate to all other departments as needed to assure that the care and services meet their preferences and person-centered plan.
okay,
So, and so anybody, the wellness document can be done by anybody. And then via the different departments, whether they look at it like an aide would look at it here, or a wellness might look at it here, a nurse would then look at it and then integrate it into the service plan. So if another example of this is how the different entities can do it. If I'm someone like a Shakopee where I've built in my housekeeping, part of that plan might be built into the schedule. So if somebody says, I don't want to get up to 11, you're going to want to make sure that your housekeeping schedule, again, using it on Matrix and then feeding into the other departments, that housekeeping schedule should make sure that there's a note in there to say, don't go into this lady's room until 11. Make sense?
yes.
Okay, awesome. And it's a lot. There's all, there's all sorts of resources. Linda's got all sorts of training tools online, videos pre-set up. And then, of course, always here to help as I volunteer Linda. She's the Matrix expert. So I'm going to go ahead and share again. Thank you, Linda. Can you stop sharing so I can take over? Thank you. Okay. So the key piece to this, as we've talked about, is making sure that we're not going back to paper, making sure that we're using Matrix and that our staff are using Matrix and our staff are documenting in Matrix, because that's going to be the only way that we're really going to pull all these pieces together. And so the couple other things that I wanted to show you, and we've talked about this before, so it's not a surprise. We look at this and we'll continue to look at this monthly. This is the compliance to Care Assist. So Care Assist is what Linda just showed us that looked like the black and white. So once the nurse sets up the care plan, then every day the aide goes into Care Assist and they can see what they're supposed to do for a resident, and they need to be signing off, yes, I did this for the resident, and they need to be documenting, I did additional stuff in that. So if they're not documenting in Care Assist, then we have no way to prove that they're providing person-centered care or that they're actually looking at the needs of this person. So if I'm carrying around a manual document that just says do ADLs on Susie, that's not person-centered, and it's not proving that it's done. So we have to use Care Assist to assure that it all fits together. So we can see on this document that Linda puts out, now this is September or August, and so soon September will come out.
It looks much better this month, so.
Yay!
for September.
So I was gonna say, I know a lot
You'll
of
be
people are
very
working on it
happy.
in September.
But
so-
one thing about that, if you're in the yellow and consistency in the yellow, we need to strive to get to the green, please.
Yep. So the couple of tools that Linda has provided for us, I want to make sure I get the right thing. And she teaches this on her Matrix calls. So if you're not on her Matrix calls and you want to know this stuff, let Linda know and she can get you on. But One of the reasons that people are not compliant to Care Assist is they say it's a struggle to get people signed on who are pool. So there is this document available to you. If you don't know where to access it, it's in Matrix. Again, I can show you where that is. And it tells you how to get people logged in and tells you, so it's a simple thing that, and Linda, I'll let you share the screen in the background. Why don't you go ahead and find your pool
They did.
orientation.
Not the last one.
So simple guide so that everybody, there's really no excuse not to use Care Assist. We can get people logged in, we can get them signed in, and we can show them really easily how they can get what they need to do. And these tools are online. And again, if you have any questions, we're here to support you because I know just moving to electronic is enough of a lift. We just did that. So now it's time to like tweak it, make it better, get your feedback, you know, that sort of thing, so that we're all moving the orders together. But this is one thing that Linda put together based on the fact that people were struggling with getting pool to use Care Assist appropriately. Let me just double check the other things I wanted to show you here. So Linda, do you want to take it back for a second and show them where that is in Matrix?
It's not in Matrix, it's an eSource.
I'm sorry, I meant the eSource, sorry.
Do you want to just pull up eSource?
Yeah, I can do that.
Just because I dropped that screen, so you'll be faster. So go to the two people or wherever housing is. I always go to the two heads. And then if you go to housing and then the Matrix Care Senior Living Tools and Videos, I have a orientation guide in there, I believe. All staff guide, no, it's not, it says orientation on it.
You can see there's lots of tools in here for training and all sorts of stuff. Evaluation, senior, this one?
No, it's the one, it says it's like that, but it says something, all staff guide to Care Assist orientation, I thought was the newest one. I hope Lisa put it in the right one.
Well, let's double check that and send out a
There
link to
is
everybody.
all staff guide to Care Assist, like fourth one down, I think.
Yeah, but that one was put in 514. Go back to housing on your link, Penny, and go to the AL toolkit. I wonder if she put it in the AL toolkit instead. Let me just check. Oh, that's a,
Here's a staff guide to Care Matrix Care.
no, it says orientation in it. So
Okay,
it's
well,
an
let's get some
all-
clarification on where, oh, right here. Nope.
That's Benedictine Pool. It says Matrix Care All Staff Orientation is the title. We'll go back to, it was just in there. I just saw it the other day, so. Cause we got it in there for somebody else.
So let's get that clarified and then send out a link for folks so they know where that is. Because I know it's things, sometimes eSource has been acting up lately too, so. Okay. All right, so that's kind of the preaching to the choir on the Care Assist. A couple of the things I just wanted to cover because we've got a few minutes left. Some of the questions is to finish up the housing with services, but before I do, any other questions on the person-centered wellness plan, how it integrates? Okay, so I'm going to go back to this form again. So sales takes care of the person, get the person approved, nursing to approve, finance to approve. Once they're coming in, give them the vital statistics, give them the person-centered wellness form, give them the, offer to give them the whole admission package so that they can read it ahead of time if they want. Let them know that it's going to take a little longer if they have questions, to give themselves plenty of time to come in. And then assign who's going to do the wellness form, who's going to assure that we have it, have a conversation with the resident, enter it into Matrix, and what is your process for then rolling that out to whether it's in your daily stand-up or a once-a-week review of residents, or however you do it. How then are you integrating it into the introduction and all the apartments, all the departments? Okay, So there, again, this is on eSource for all the different states. If you have any questions or need any help in the process, let us know.
Dispute it.
So
We could.
fine folks, please go on mute.
I'd have to go on, I'd have to get a
Can't
online
tell who's
access
talking,
to
but-
IRS, and I'd have to get the password.
Um,
Supposedly there's
I
something.
think it might still be me.
up.
It's
So one of the
Barb.
questions of the month is, if an IL goes to the hospital, should the RA be instructed to call the, actually, this should be family, sorry. Call the family.
$1,200.
And is there a policy on that? This came up in one of our communities and where a family asked for a policy. And I really don't want to put a policy on this, because if you have a policy, we have to follow it.
January.
And it is very possible.
January.
So hold on a second. Marion,
It still was.
Marion residents, Deb Craig, can you please go on mute?
I think it's Barb, Penny.
Oh,
Can you mute it?
Oh, that, you're right, that is.
I don't know. It sounds like.
Barb Westman, can you go on mute, please?
Just pay it, then try to argue.
Barb Westberg? Mute, please, thank you. So where it came up, and really in talking to people, some of our communities are very large,
Well,
and have very large independent living. So we might not even really know that a family is going to a hospital until we do the well check on the next day. We don't know if a family would want us to notify, so we don't really want a policy around this. It's more of a relationship thing. I'm gonna stop again and try one more time.
Direct deposit.
Benedict in Duluth, Barb, can you go on Duluth, go on to mute, please? Thank you. So it's really more about a relationship thing. If an RA responds to a call light and somebody is, you know, you need to call 911 for them, I would ask them, can I call somebody for you? Can I help you with something? I think that would be really important. And if they are non-responsive, then knowing the family, you may want to check in with the leader, knowing the family, you know, you may want to call. It's more of a relationship thing.
And
When I was in,
I
one of
remember
the
saying
states,
it too, but I thought
somebody was in distress. I felt like they
keep
needed to go to
telling
the
me, oh,
hospital.
first.
They asked me not to call their family. So I don't think we want to hard and fast on this. And again, if we say that we're going to notify families when somebody goes to the hospital and we don't know that they went to the hospital, then we didn't follow their policy. So I just think it's about relationships. Hopefully that's enough of an answer. If you have any other questions or specific situations that you want to talk through, give me a call.
I have one more question, sorry.
Yeah, yes.
On the IL, are we supposed to be doing wellness checks on IL?
So the last that I heard on the COVID calls, if you have any specific questions, you can check with the RNS, but
So then,
where I was at with the state
and
is we are supposed to follow ICAR. And ICAR says that for persons on, ICAR says that we should be doing temps and the screening question. It says that O2 is an option,
And
and it doesn't say anything about full vitals. So and then Benedict and Dr. B talked about it and said that we only need, that he would recommend the minimum. So temps only. And then in Minnesota, and so in the other states where they're IL, they're truly IL, and the answer is no. In Minnesota, because they're actually assisted living persons not on services, we did ask the state of Minnesota, and they said that they can
Yeah,
screen
it's whatever fees
And
that
at
the
that
realtor,
point in
like
time-
all the closing fees, yes.
Barb from Duluth, we can still hear you.
And, you know, he did say that, so I guess the
Um,
IRS.
at
could,
that
like,
point in
chunk
time-
up and Say that,
I
Penny, I don't
you can
think
actually
anyone
go
can
on
hear
and
you
view her-
right now.
know, I'm trying to.
Whoever's the owner
now
of
Barb,
when
the-
he
see if I can
sold,
make this
the
bigger.
the market went up, but that'd be pretty
Can
hard.
we somehow mute her? Can the organizer of the meeting?
Yeah, I'm trying to find her in my screen so I can.
I
mute her.
tried, Penny. I can't. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm trying to find her.
Just mute everyone, Penny, and then we'll use the chat box for now.
Okay. How do I mute everybody?
She's muted now.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to see how I can mute everybody.
I think
Okay.
she muted. You're good to go, Penny.
Okay, so, okay, so follow ICAR, which means temp and screening questions only. You don't have to do O2. In non-Minnesota IL, you don't need to do anything. In Minnesota, unless your state tells you different. In Minnesota, the state of Minnesota said that the independent people or the persons not on services can screen themselves. but they have not yet given us, and at that point in time, we said you do not need to screen for the IL on our COVID call from Jerry and Dr. B, pending information from the state of Minnesota. We have gotten no information from the state of Minnesota when we posed the question, what does screening themselves mean? And we have not heard back on that. And so at this point in time, it stands, and I don't know if Jerry's on the call, but the last that we've shared with Benedictine is you don't need to screen. You can just tell folks they can screen themselves. If you choose to, because you're in a building where people are kind of mixed in together and you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye out for COVID, you can have them self-screen and you can validate that or do other things, such as having them come down and do the front door screening or come down at a certain time of day and people can screen. So those are options for you if you choose, but you do not have to do your personal sign-on services. Just tell them to self-screen. Tia, was that an accurate reflection of your understanding?
Penny, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I didn't know if you're all muted. Yes, I think we were going to use some type of calendar. They were going to self-check off and kind of that approach, right? That was my understanding too.
Yes, but again,
Proof.
even though it says active screen, that right now, the latest thing from Minnesota is that they can just screen themselves. They have not defined active screen. So that would be a good practice, but you can just say to them, well, we need you to screen. And if you don't pass, then let us know. I mean, that's fine
Yes.
too.
Just something so we have proof of you guys having some process for it. Yep.
Sorry that took so long with the noise in the background. It was a little hard to focus on what I was saying. So I'm finance, and I want to pull up really quickly because I think even though it's bad news, I wanted to point out a couple of things. And bad news really just related to COVID. I thought I had this open. So, you know, just general expenses and census down. Our finances, why is it not? Here we go, financial summary. And over. Our finances year to date, we were 167,000 off plan for operations, but when you include the non-operating, we were actually positive for the month, so it was good. So even though we're still struggling for the year, we had a positive month, and we're still behind in operations. But what I wanted to show you is obviously because of census, right? If you look down here, to get us back on budget, we only need 43 people. That's a very doable thing. So even though, like I said, when you guys see these numbers and when they're presented and it's all COVID and there's more COVID dollars out there, so that's a really positive thing. This is really not that far off to get. And when you scroll down to see the other ones, if it's highlighted yellow, in this column, it means they're off plan, kind of a larger off plan. If they're highlighted yellow in this plan, this side, it means they're doing better than plan. So when you look at this, yeah, we've got people who are really struggling, especially our startups, especially Windermere Way, but they're plugging away. They're getting better every single day. But there's also a good number of people who are really doing better than plan. And so, you know, when you look at the numbers, don't look quite so negative. Let's just focus on our census, focus on expense control. Know there's some more COVID dollars coming in. You know, here's the Serenities and the partnerships, and we've got again a lot of people in this column highlighted mean they're doing better than planned. So I wanted to point that out as we look at the numbers. And then the last thing, just to say that one of the things that will help to make sure is if you were in Minnesota and you are elderly waiver, there is a 16% increase to elderly waiver. The state pays typically what we bill them, not what they know they should pay us. So based on the service plan. So you want to make sure that you're updating all of your elderly waiver to reflect the increase in the cap. And so you should have received some notifications from the county. If not, reach out to your county. Just make sure we're capturing these additional dollars that are taking place effective today. And that's it for our follow-up call. Any last questions? All right. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Again, we shared a lot today. Any questions? We're here. Reach out. Have a wonderful day.